My name is Eleanor Grace. I am 102 years old. My hands tremble a little when I hold my cup of tea now, and my steps are slower than they used to be. But my memory is still clear enough to remember the night that changed my life forever. For 60 long years I have carried a secret in my heart, a secret so heavy that some nights I still wake up feeling like the same frightened young woman I once was. I never told my family. I never told my friends. And the one person who deserves to know the truth still doesn't know. My son. Yes, I have a son. He is 60 years old now, living just 10 miles away from me, and he has absolutely no idea that I am his mother. The story begins in the winter of 1964. Back then I was only 22 years old, working as a young nurse at a small hospital in a quiet town in Ohio. It wasn't a big hospital, just a small brick building with a handful of rooms and a tiny delivery ward. I loved my job. Every day felt meaningful, helping people, comforting families, and sometimes bringing new life into the world. But one stormy night in December changed everything. The snow was falling so heavily that night you could barely see the street lights outside the hospital windows. Most of the town had already gone to sleep, and the hospital hallways were silent. Just after midnight, the front door suddenly burst open. A young girl stumbled inside, covered in snow, breathing heavily and clutching her stomach. She looked terrified and exhausted. She couldn't have been older than 18. "Please, I need help," she whispered before collapsing on the floor. We rushed her to the delivery room immediately. Her contractions were already strong and close together. The baby was coming quickly, but something wasn't right. She had already lost a dangerous amount of blood before she arrived. The doctor on duty that night looked at me with a serious expression and quietly said, "Eleanor, this is going to be difficult." The girl grabbed my hand during the labor. Her fingers were freezing cold and trembling. Tears ran down her face as she looked straight into my eyes and whispered, "If something happens to me, promise me my baby will have a good life." I tried to reassure her, telling her everything would be okay. But deep down I felt a knot forming in my stomach. After hours that felt like forever, the baby finally arrived. A beautiful baby boy. The moment he cried, the room felt alive again. But when I looked back at the young mother, she was completely still. The doctor tried everything he could, but within minutes it became clear. She was gone. The room fell into a painful silence except for the sound of the newborn baby crying. No family came looking for her. No husband. No parents. Nothing but a small bag she had brought with her. Later we found a piece of paper inside with only one name written on it. But there was something the hospital staff didn't know. Something I had not told anyone. That young girl wasn't a stranger to me. She was my best friend. Her name was Margaret. We had grown up together, shared secrets, dreams, and plans for the future. But life had taken us down different paths. When she became pregnant, the father disappeared and she was terrified of the shame it might bring to her family. She left town quietly so no one would find out. Somehow, fate brought her to my hospital that snowy night. When the hospital administrators learned there was no family for the baby, they quickly made a decision. A wealthy couple in our town had been trying to adopt a child for years. They had a big house, money, and influence. The hospital believed the baby would have a better life with them. Everything was arranged quickly and quietly, but inside me something was breaking apart. Margaret had asked me to promise her baby would have a good life, and I had made a promise to her years ago when we were young. If anything ever happened to one of us, the other would take care of the child. But I was only 22. I had no money, no husband, and in those days a single woman raising a child alone was something society judged harshly. I was afraid of what people would say, afraid I wouldn't be able to give him the life he deserved, so I stayed silent. I watched as the wealthy couple came to the hospital and held the baby boy for the first time. They named him Daniel. For years after that day, I watched Daniel grow up from a distance. I saw him playing baseball in the park. I saw him riding his bicycle down the street with his friends. Sometimes I would see him in the grocery store with his parents, laughing and smiling. Every birthday of his, I wrote him a letter. I wrote about how proud I was of him, how much I wished him happiness, and how deeply he was loved. But I never mailed those letters. Instead, I kept them in a small wooden box beside my bed. Life kept moving forward. Daniel grew into a good man. He became a teacher, married a wonderful woman, and had children of his own. Now he even has grandchildren. But the strangest part of this story is what happens every Sunday. Every Sunday morning I go to church, and every Sunday, Daniel is there. He always greets me politely with a warm smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Grace," he says kindly. Sometimes he even walks me to my car after the service. One winter morning I slipped on the icy church steps, and he rushed over to help me stand. "Careful there," he said with a gentle laugh. In that moment I looked at his face, the same eyes his mother Margaret had. My heart nearly shattered. He lives just 10 miles away from me. 10 miles. For 60 years I have watched my own son live his life from the shadows, and he has never known who I truly am. Now I am 102 years old. Time feels different at this age. The days move slowly, but the years behind me feel like they passed in a heartbeat. My doctor says my heart is still strong, but none of us can outrun time forever. Some nights I sit quietly in my rocking chair and look at that wooden box filled with letters. Letters written to a son who never knew he had another mother in this world. I often wonder what would happen if I finally told him the truth. Would he be angry? Would he feel betrayed after all these years? Or would he understand the impossible choice a frightened young nurse had to make in 1964? I truly don't know. But I do know this: secrets grow heavier as time passes, and the one I've carried for 60 years is beginning to feel too heavy for a 102-year-old heart. Maybe one day soon I will gather the courage to hand Daniel that wooden box and tell him everything. Or maybe this secret will leave this world with me when my time finally comes. I suppose only time will decide.